Hello, so this video is about visual sources. When you get your sources for the synthesis FRQ, at least one of them is going to be visual in some way. So some examples of different kinds of sources you might encounter. You might have graphs or charts, maybe maps, schedules, photographs or paintings, maybe even a picture of a statue. And cartoons are also something you might see, like political cartoons. So the question is, how do you use these visual sources in a written essay? Well, sometimes you can quote from them directly. You can take quotes from a political cartoon, for example, or take statistics from a graph or a chart. You might paraphrase them, talk about kind of patterns that you see, or you could describe them. If there's a photograph, for example, you could describe what is in that photograph and use it as evidence in your visual source. So let's do some examples together. Here's a cartoon that might be used in the library prompt. It wasn't used, but it maybe could be in a different version of the world. So how would I talk about that in my essay? I might include it in a couple of sentences like this. Libraries are still used for their traditional purpose as well, lending books and media. And this service should not be underrated, especially in times of trial. Escape into a good book can be vital to a person's well-being. During this recent pandemic, for example, some stocked up on toilet paper while others stocked up on reading material to help cope. And then I cite it at the end. You can cite it with the source, right? Source A, source B, source C, or you can cite it with whatever they put in those parentheses. So usually in the visual sources, they'll put what kind of visual source it is. Maybe photo, cartoon, graph, map, whatever it is. So that's an example of a political cartoon or cartoon. Here's an example of a photograph. So how could I use that photograph for the library prompt? How could I use it as evidence? Maybe I write something like this. Programs offered by libraries go well beyond lending reading material. For example, some libraries offer storytime programs for children and may even incorporate the performing and visual arts. So that's what I'm seeing in that photograph, right? She's got like these butterflies and she's obviously doing some kind of a show for them, and then there's a guy in the back with a guitar, right? Exposure to such programs can be impactful for young children, and the connection between the arts and academic performance and mental health is well documented. They can also be valuable opportunity to learn social skills and bond with friends and family members. So again, I'm just using what I see in that picture as evidence for my argument. Here's a little map. So how could I possibly include information from this map in my essay about libraries? Couple examples for this one. So the first one, I could say something like, according to the map, people in 2015 were still using libraries regularly. In some states, the average worked out to 5 or 6 visits to the library in 1 year. And considering that as an average, it's reasonable to assume that many people use them even more frequently than that. So proves that people are still using libraries. Or I could say something like, further, there is a clear correlation between library visits and educational outcomes. Mississippi is consistently ranked as one of the lowest performing states when it comes to student academic achievement, and it also has one of the lowest rates of library usage. Citation. On the other hand, Massachusetts consistently leads the country in academic performance and has one of the highest rates of library usage. Map. While that alone does not prove a causal relationship, a community wherein individuals are avid readers is also likely a community that will perform well in school. So in order to do that second one, I needed to have that knowledge already that Mississippi does not perform well academically, Massachusetts does. Since I'm a teacher, I happened to know that, right? But it might also be an opportunity for you to synthesize patterns that you see between sources. So if you had another source where there was an article that said something about Mississippi's low academic achievement rates, then you could synthesize the data from your written article with the data from your visual source and create something beautiful. That would be ideal because that's what we're looking for, right? Synthesis. Here's the actual visual source that was given with that library prompt. So how could I include information from this into my essay? Well, there are a lot of things I could say about this. In the top chart there, a graph. Of the 6 questions asked, I noticed that 2 are significantly higher for ebooks and 2 for print books. I noticed that the convenience aspect is higher with ebooks, but the social aspect is higher with print, right? We're reading with somebody, we're sharing books with other people, but this is more about how to be convenient, quick, and easy. I also was surprised at this particular response here about having a wide selection to choose from. I thought the internet would be far and away better than, you know, a bookstore or a library, but they're not that far apart. Teens, I noticed down here, are far more likely to get help from a librarian than adults are, like twice as likely on average, right? But even with the older adults, there's still a significant portion of people who are getting help from librarians, maybe somewhere around 20% for the adult population. And if that holds true nationwide, that makes me think that would be millions of people getting help at libraries. Now, our sample sizes down here are not huge, right? We've only got 168 over here. We've got 804 over here. That's a bigger sample, right? But if these statistics were to hold true, I could put that in my essay. If these statistics were to hold true nationwide, that would account for millions of people getting help from librarians. So then the next logical question is, if we got rid of libraries, where would those people get help? Taken together, right, I can synthesize the information from both of the charts. Taken together, those charts indicate a waning importance of libraries as a person ages, right? When you're a child, it seems to be really important. When you're working, you're traveling, commuting, not so much. When you're a teenager in school, important. When you're in your adult years, not so much. So, your turn. Look at source E of the locavore prompt. That includes a graph. And on your worksheet, I want you to identify 8 to 10 things that you could say about that graph that relates to your prompt or your thesis that you created, your working thesis you created yesterday. So doing something like this where you just create a nice little list of things that you notice about that visual information that you could use in your essay. All right, good luck.